Now is the Deepin Chinese OS running, and now 192.168.11.12 is the Windows server. I remote to it, and now under it I have VM under it and installed Ubuntu here on the VM server, on the VM under Windows server. And now I demonstrate you that the Ubuntu has been installed, the Openstack dev stack. So cd opt cd stack, you can see dev stack OpenStack. I have already deployed in this Ubuntu. Okay, so now I'm showing the IP of this VM machine of Ubuntu. I just bridged it to the 192.168.11.0 that network subnet. So manual, not DHCP, yeah, 11.52, and the gateway 254. Okay, it's the same network as this server. So the Ubuntu is like that. So I can type 192.168.11.52 my Deepin Chinese OS. Okay, now I'm on inside the OpenStack already because I already installed Flu Dev Stack. So I don't want to talk about it. You can see other videos for details. Now you can see the compute vCPUs and instances, two instances, Debian and Fedora, the network. I configured it already. And instances, two vCP for Fedora virtual CPU, and Debian for I've configured 4 vCPUs and 40 gig this, 20 gig this big, and RAM 4 gig, etc. Instances you can see running the Fedora, and the images Debian, Fedora, and SurOS. Key pairs I don't need to use the SSH, I just use password. And for volumes, yeah, Fedora 40 gig and running Debian 20 gig, running the DEV and VDA already mounted on the OS. And networking, okay, public is 172, that public IP, and the private development I created 10.0.11.0 network. And for the router I also created it. You need to create it, otherwise you cannot route those things together. And this is private level 10.0.11.0, and already the floating IP is to connect the route to the public, between the public and the private, the 10.0.10 that network associated to it for my private network. Yeah, 10.0.11 that network, the Fedora and Debian are running. Okay, and you need to route and add the interface to the router for the 10.0.11.0 network with the 172 public network. So now Fedora and Debian, the red one is the private development, 10.0.11.0. That network is connecting to the router, and the router route to the 172 dot network to the street to the 192.168.11.0 that network, which is the server I'm running, and to the internet. So that is the structure. And private level also share, also connecting to the internet. And the Qcow2, there are files Qcow2 and ISO ISO as well. And Qcow2, you need to change the password, the default password you don't know. Qcow2 is already packed for you, ready to use for the cloud. and you can also use ISO and pack it to Qcow2 by yourself. So you need to install the live guest tools, and then sudo vert customize -v-a, and then root and password, and change the root password so that you can log in to the Qcow2 OS, Linux OS. So before, very important, you need to Qcow2 change the password. And here for the GUI, server to GUI, Linux GUI, you need to add user and also change the password for yourself and root or something, add the user, and user mod to add the privilege and give the root privilege and the right to it. Otherwise, the default X server, or the X Windows, or the GUI desktop, the Xfce or the Mate desktop, the default password you don't know, so you cannot log in. So you need to change the password and create a user, otherwise it will be the problem. Now I'm showing you that I created the user David. So now I switch the default one. If you don't create the user, it directly logs to Fedora cloud user. So what's the password? You don't know. So that's very important. Before changing to the GUI, you need to add the user. I added David and changed my password. So user mod and add user. So now I can log in. So now you can see running Openstack. The host is Openstack Nova, and everything Xfce I installed. Everything is well, fine, running, very smooth. So remember to add user and change your password and your name. You remember it and select and switch the user, not the default one. Default one you cannot know the password and username. Like even the username, the cloud user, Fedora cloud user, you don't know the password, so you cannot log in. And also the Qcow2 OS, you don't know the password of root password or something. If you don't change, you cannot log in. You cannot log in as well. So change password, change your name, remember it, and switch your user. Change password, create your user, very important. And now I'm trying to install the color paint for you to demonstrate you that I'm running OpenStack, and OpenStack having two instances, Fedora, and the Fedora already is the Fedora server. Originally was no GUI server, just the command line CLI, command line command prompt, but now I have already installed the GUI or Windows X server, or GUI or Xfce Mate, whatever you can choose. So I installed the GUI desktop. So now you can see it's running very smooth. It's the private cloud on the 192.168.11.52 server OpenStack now running this cloud instances. So already installed the Cloud Paint app. Now I run it. Oh, successfully running. So that's a very good success. Good. 好用. You can see very successfully I'm running the GUI desktop of this kind of Fedora. Very good under the Chinese Deepin and remote to the Ubuntu under Windows Server. So now it's Deepin accessing the 192.168.11.52 and accessing Baidu.com internet. Okay, successfully internet outside, right? OpenStack, searching Fedora, everything can search. Very good, right? So this is the Fedora GUI Xfce I installed it. Very smooth, you can see. Very good to use. Everywhere now I can use because it's cloud. I can at home, remote, and using cloud. Using this Linux OS, Fedora or Debian everywhere I can use just access to OpenStack. It's very convenient comparing to the just VM. installing the OS. So this is the private cloud I created. You can link it to the internet, to the fixed IP. So it will be the, the private cloud, and the good for the company, small company. You can access everything, install the software or something, access Windows or something. So for the first one, as I said, for Qcow2 instance, you need to install the sudo dnf, install the libguest tools, and then you can change the sudo vert customized -v-a fedora.qcow2 is the file's name, fedora.qcow2, and the root password, the password 1234568 So you need to create a root and change the password to 1234568 now, so that you can log in. And then for the GUI for the server to GUI, you need to add the user, as I said, sudo add user hyphen big letter G will David is my name, sudo user mod -a big G will David. So add the privilege to it, add the right to it, and change the password, sudo password David. Change your password. Default is the Fedora cloud user. If you don't change it, don't add the user, don't user mod it, give the privilege, you don't know the Fedora cloud user as I show you to you, and you cannot log in to the Fedora GUI. So that I reinstall again and add the user mod, add the user. Before going to the GUI, access to GUI, you need to add the user first. Remember it, that's a very important concept. So, and how to install the GUI to the server, to the Fedora server, you can just DNF group list showing all the desktop GUI. I choose the smaller size one, Xfce desktop, not the Cinnamon desktop, but here showing the Cinnamon desktop example for you. DNF group install Cinnamon desktop hyphen, or DNF install add Cinnamon desktop hyphen environments. You can choose either one to install. And after installing it, you need to put it into graphical mode by default, so that you have to adjust the default target. Type system CTL set default graphical dot target. So after reboot, the default will be the GUI, not the command line. Okay, so enjoy the private cloud. That's very important. Add user, right? Add password.